want to do a quick introduction. My name is Elise Corrigan. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm a director at the Alumni Association of Case Western Reserve University. In addition to working with alumni, I am an alum. I completed my undergraduate degree in philosophy from Case Western Reserve and finished my MBA part-time from the Weatherhead School of Management. I want to thank you and welcome you to our program today. Now more than ever, you may be seeking community or closeness with folks with whom you have something in common. So I hope that we can provide that today. Before we begin and I turn it over to our speakers, we have a poll to see what's going on in the audience. So if you could, just go ahead and do a couple clicks to tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm going to launch that poll now. And while you fill out the poll, I'll share a little bit about the Alumni Association. The Alumni Association of Case Western Reserve University strives to bring valuable programming through our platforms to connect you with each other and reconnect you to your alma mater. We host programs and provide resources to the 110,000 alumni of all of the Case Western Reserve University schools and colleges. There's no membership, you've joined just by completing your degree. So I want to welcome you all. And as you're completing the poll, I just want to say that we appreciate you seeking community through the Alumni Association and hope that the Women of Wonder program may help you fulfill those goals. Women of Wonder started in 2018 and continues today as a collaboration between the Flora Stone Mather Center for Women and the Alumni Association. We host 3 each year with the goals of showcasing and celebrating the achievements of our esteemed alumni, connecting alumni around common interests, and elevating professional development opportunities. So we hope you get that opportunity today. We're always on the lookout for additional candidates. So if you know anyone, please share if you have recommendations. Outside of Women of Wonder, there are many ways to connect with alumni, including CWRU Connect, the Alumni Career Network. This is an alumni directory and private community platform to message individuals and groups of alumni and students. We'll be continuing today's discussion in our Women of Wonder community, to which everyone here has already been invited, and I'm including the link in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results so you can get a kind of an idea. Looks like everyone's pretty excited about today. A good handful of folks from the Cleveland area, but all around the US as well. And looks like we've got a lot of folks in the experienced mid-level professional category. Thanks for participating in the poll. A couple notes for today. This program is recorded. It will be recorded and a recording will be made available afterwards, so you'll get a copy of that. Everyone is muted by default, but please feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question and if you want to interact with our speakers today. Please have something nearby, something silly or something of your choosing to toss around. And I'll also put a link in the chat to a worksheet so that you can participate along with everyone. Yep, whatever you find nearby. Finally, please turn on your video if you are able and if you're comfortable so that our speakers can see and interact with you. Again, my name is Elise Corrigan and I'm here for any questions you have about CWRU Connect, about Women of Wonder, or anything you may need that's alumni relations. And I want to thank you again for joining us today. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Angela Clark-Taylor, who is the director of the Flora Stone Mather Center for Women. She is here today and she'll be speaking with Kimberly Wiefling, who is a graduate of Case Western Reserve University. She graduated with a PhD in physics.
No, I only got a master's. I only have a master's in physics.
Yes, a master's in physics. And then shortly after that, realized the limits of technology devoid of human skills. So now she works globally to help individuals, teams, and organizations achieve what seems impossible, but is nearly difficult. Does that sound familiar? Yep, we're thinking beyond the possible. While I wish I could tell you much more about the books and presentations she's published, I'd rather leave it up to her. Her presentational style speaks for itself. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Angela Clark-Taylor to share a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Elise, for being partners with the Florista Mather Center for Women on this. I am so excited about today. And I wanted to quickly, before we get started, just say a little bit why I think today is really such a great part of what the Florista Mather Center does. But I've been compelled already by Kimberly to say, I thought what I brought was fun, and it's not at all. So the back of my phone is one of those fun, right? Like just like calming, sparkly glow in the dark backgrounds. And I also have right here my I Descent and RBG themed cacti plant pots. And that's what I thought would be great to bring. And you've got all of this fancy stuff. So I already feel really like we are in good hands today with you. You are well prepared. I mean, yeah, there's just no way I'm going to top that. But I will say just really quickly why I'm so glad we're all here today is the Florista Mather Center for Women recently launched its new strategic plan themed Leading, Empowering, and Innovating. And the idea is for the center to be a leader, right, empowering others, and as women are innovators themselves across the fields that we see women still underrepresented in, women in STEM, right, to the fields we see women overrepresented in, like the humanities and social sciences, and being able to empower women at all levels they're at, support them in their creativity, innovation, and changing the way we think in the world. And what I've learned about Kimberly over the past few weeks as we've planned this is that she has been a leader in this herself and a leader helping other women do this. And so I'm just so excited to be talking to her today. So with that being said, you know, Kimberly, we'd really love to hear from you to start. And if you could just kind of briefly tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words.
Oh, yeah. Well, first I'll tell you, I'm nervous, which means I care. And some of the things that we got sent to us in advance said, hey, how do I overcome the imposter syndrome? How do I develop the confidence to challenge things that seem impossible? Well, I'm here to tell you good news. Confidence is not required. What's needed is commitment to keep going in the face of being uncomfortable. So just a little, let's just cross our arms, cross your arms, even if your video's off, I can feel you. All right, cross your arms, feel how that feels. And then cross your arms, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody feeling a little awkward, uncomfortable? Yeah, just wave your hands like this if you're feeling a little awkward and uncomfortable. Okay. Well, that is how it feels when you're doing something that's challenging and that's a worthy cause. And that feeling of uncomfortableness is not a sign to stop. It's a sign to keep going and keep growing. I felt that way the whole 3 years in graduate school. I was going to graduate school with people from China who had finished all of the homework before they even started. I mean, I came from undergraduate where I was like the top in my class to being really mediocre. And that's been really a great experience for me. Right after graduate school, I joined Hewlett Packard. And, you know, HP is one of these great places to work. I was pretty sure that they had my resume confused with someone truly qualified when they hired me. I worked there for 10 years in 7 different jobs: engineering, manufacturing, even product development, program management, and R&D. And I even did explosion testing. I would take a huge mass spectrometer and I would fill it with hydrogen and explode it as part of our safety test. And my mother would ask me, are you sure you're supposed to be doing that? And then I live in Silicon Valley. So I thought, I'm working at HP. All that job security is really boring. So I quit and I joined 3 failed startup companies in the period of 3 years. And don't worry, every time I had a failure, I joined another company, I got a raise and a promotion. So we just call it fail forward. And in Silicon Valley, we don't call these things mistakes or failures. We call it a prototype. And finally, in 2001, there was this huge dot-com bust where all the companies collapsed. And I said, woo, I'm uncomfortable. Started my own business in 2001, the worst economy in decades. And I'll tell you, whenever you want to start your own business, one of the questions was, how do I start my own business? The first 5 years are the hardest. Just keep going. And I can't believe it actually has been 20 years now running my own business and working with wonderful colleagues like Yvonne Burton. Yvonne is here today with us as well, supporting. Maybe Yvonne, you just give a brief intro of yourself as well.
Hi, everyone. Very nice to be here with you. I am Yvonne Burton, and I'm a technology consultant and a business communications consultant with a specialty in the Japanese market. Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm an associate, of course, of Kimberly's.
So I've been for the last 13 years, mostly working with globalizing Japanese companies. Why? Because in Japan, I'm not a man, I'm not a Japanese woman, so I'm kind of like an alien. I don't have a gender. And I mostly work with technology people who need to learn what they call touchy-feely crap, which is human skills. I wrote a book about project management about 13 years ago, and it was translated into Japanese by Nikkei Business Press. I don't read Japanese, so I don't know if it's a good translation, but I'm told the jokes aren't as funny. All right. So that's about me, Angela. I don't know anything else you want to know. I'll hang out for the after party after our event and hang out and talk with all of you, get to know you better.
No, Kimberly, that is incredible. And I'm so glad that you're already incorporating the questions we've had right from our audience today. We got such wonderful questions from them that are mainly going to lead most of our conversation today. I kind of have just one more sort of higher level question for you before we dig right into those. And you mentioned a little bit about all the different ways you thought about your work in places you worked, and also how you thought about your business, right? And how you're helping others think about that. I know a lot of your work has been around design thinking. So I didn't know if you could share a little bit about your model and encourage, the folks here to start thinking in that space as we get into some of their questions about their career and leadership. Specifically, right, how can we use this mindset to cultivate and sustain organizations?
Well, so, one of the things that I've learned, I studied a lot about the human brain because I learned all this stuff about science and technology. I come to work at Hewlett Packard and all these other places and find out, oh my God, I have to work with human beings. So I started to learn, how human brains work. And one of the things that human brains really don't like to do is planning. So if you say go, people will just start. They don't know why they're doing it or who they're doing it for or what exactly is success through the eyes of the key stakeholders or have a plan. They just start working because, well, when you're planning, no products get shipped, no revenue is booked, no profit is made. So design thinking is an approach, it's a methodology which allows you to stop, think, organize, and do a little bit of planning. And even a basic framework with some basic planning doubles your chances of success. I have the data, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a scientist, doubles your chances of success.
That is wonderful. Kimberly, thank you. I think that helps really kind of frame us in your approach. So if it's all right with you, I will start with some of our questions from the audience. We received some, so for folks who are watching, sure, just in case you weren't one of the folks that filled this out, we asked for questions beforehand, and we were so moved by what Kimberly wanted to share here today and what you asked that we decided to frame the dialogue more around this. And I'm really excited about it, particularly. So one of our first questions is about workplace culture. One of our audience members, I hope they're able to be here today, shared that I'm 4 months into a new job at a new company. From my time here so far, I can see that some elements of the culture are holding back our collective success, and I want to help change this. How can I start? Specifically, how to overcome gender bias in the workplace.
Oh my goodness, really? That's just a short question? Oh my
I know, and if folks want, I don't know, Elise, how you feel about if we should put it in the chat or anything like that. It's helpful for everyone to see.
Let me just touch on a few of these because that's a whole nother workshop we can do together. We do some work with Yamaha Motors on organizational culture. What is the organization's culture? And my mentor happens to be Dr. Edgar Schein, the 93-year-old famous guy who invented the term organizational culture. And what he's taught me is organization's culture is the stories you tell the new person the first day they come to work. Now, you can imagine most of those stories are not very positive. Like, oh, watch out for so-and-so because there's a hot button. And don't talk about this because that'll set off so-and-so. Or we tried that 5 years ago and that'll never work here, right? So you've got to overcome this negative bias in the stories. And so what we do with Yamaha Motors and other organizations on this is talk about stories from the past. Find some stories about things that have happened in the past that show you your DNA, who you are at the core, and then find stories from the present that show people who are living and breathing your values in action and the kind of stories you want to see more of. Spread those good stories around, and then talk about stories from the future, aspirational. Who would you like to be 5 years from now? We just finished a strategic planning with one big, huge global company that's headquartered in Japan, where they all started making collages together of here's how our organization will look in 2026. And here's what we'll be saying. And here's the headlines we hope will be in our newspapers. And here's what people will be saying at the party. You got to have stories that reinforce the positive aspects of culture. And ideally, that would include gender equity and women's leadership.
Kimberly, I love that the first part that you said, everything you said, but the first part particularly about the stories that we get told when we arrive into an organization, right? In higher ed, and I'm sure you've heard this term too, we call it institutional saga, right? That like you get there and people tell you the history and their own idea of the organization. And I really particularly love your idea of taking advantage of that dynamic when it begins, right? To tell your own story. One of the other questions we received, I think that is an answer to it as well, but I want to give you an opportunity to expand on it. One person shared that they feel like they have a lot to offer, right? But no one to offer it to at their organization, and was wondering how do they get the word out about what they have to offer.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. Nobody will accept what I have to offer stuff. I have this chicken. I carry him around everywhere. So I want to just challenge a little bit of this learned helplessness syndrome. I carry the chicken and I do this little exercise. See this chicken? He fell. And what caused him to fall? I asked people all over the world, what caused this chicken to fall?
I know you dropped him.
Oh, thank you. My physicist friends say it's gravity, but I dropped him. Okay, if you want to contribute, start contributing. I was an individual contributor at many companies with absolutely zero hierarchical power. And what did I do? I created a book swap where people could bring books and share. I created a lunch and learn, which I just bring in a pizza and say, hey, let's have someone give a talk. I asked for a mentor. I asked for thinking partners to get together and help each other. I just started doing things, and sometimes I was a hero and sometimes I was a zero, right? And we always say, do the right thing and you'll get your reward in heaven. So just start doing things and inviting people like a magnet and attract others that care like you do. Prototype, experiment.
Yeah, I love that, prototyping. It's so true. I want to make sure that I'm paying attention to all the questions we have here. This one is potentially a little bit of a turn to a different direction, but one woman specifically asked about how you advise women to find mentors so that maybe they can continue to have these conversations.
Oh, that's great, because I've had so many mentors in my life, but you can't just go up to somebody and say, oh, could you be my mentor? Because it's so much pressure, unless they're a narcissistic jerk, they're like, well, what do I have to teach you, right? So you go up to somebody and you say, I heard you speaking in that meeting and I got a lot of value out of that. I wonder if you'd be available for me to pick your brain over a cup of virtual coffee. And, just let me pick your brain about your career or your insights. And then you go to this event, this meeting with them, and you ask them, tell me about your life story. Start at birth. And then you listen and you express sincere interest and sincere appreciation. And then you say, interesting, tell me more, using the, generous listening. And then you keep letting them talk. And oh my gosh, 45 minutes later, they're still talking. It's the only time in their entire lives they've ever been listened to without being interrupted. And at the end of that conversation, you say, I really learned a lot from being here with you today. I wonder, would you be willing to check in again in another month or so? And before you know it, you're meeting every month and they're your mentor.
Thank you so much. That is great advice. I know you mentioned earlier when you were telling us a little bit about yourself, about when you figured out that it was right to kind of start your own business, right? One of our questions was about how you got started doing that, a little bit more about that. What steps could an entrepreneur take proactively to build a true team, right? Rather than just a group of people, and find that client base to help change things for other teams.
Well, I started my first business when I was still working at Hewlett Packard. And here's how you start a business. You print business cards that say you're in business, and you put up a website that says you have a business, and you start telling people, and they just believe you. And then you're just like, oh my gosh, now I've got to do something. So you can start your business really lightweight and easy. You can create a concept. I pivoted a couple of times before I actually fully went into my business full time. And then what I do in order to attract people, right now I have a group called Silicon Valley Alliances, and maybe Yvonne will put that link into the chat. Silicon Valley Alliances is 30 individual consultants with our own businesses all over the world. We have some in the US, some in Europe, some in Japan, some in Singapore, some in Australia. And we just experimented working with each other over the years. And then we would say, hey, why don't we put ourselves on a website together? And so we have this huge organization called Silicon Valley Alliances. We do business with, two of the top biggest companies in Japan, as well as many others. And we're just little one-person businesses doing things. So that's for the consulting side. Now that I also have helped about a half a dozen startups go from an idea to implementation. One of our startups, we took no venture money. We've grown it to 3 million in revenues over the past 12 years, and it's worth about maybe $3 to $5 million. But we just started with an idea and prototyped it, and we pretended we were bigger than we were. And the hard part about making a real team is overcoming the obstacles. The obstacles to real teamwork are people don't trust each other. They don't know each other. They don't communicate effectively. They don't have clear decision-making and problem-solving approaches. They don't have clear shared goals, and they don't have aligned priorities. So those are known by research to be the biggest obstacles to team effectiveness. So you just have to work as a leader. I mean, whose job is it to make sure goals are clear, priorities are aligned, and people build trusting relationships and communicate effectively? I mean, it's a leadership problem, right? So you've got to lead more than manage. Lead people, manage cows. That's a good guideline.
I literally had to pull up a note, Kimberly, and write myself a note about the clear shared goals. It's a reminder as a leader I feel like I need all the time. So I really appreciate that. I'd like to step back for a second. You talked about one of the companies you particularly helped, figure out what they had to offer, right? And help them prototype it. Can you talk a little bit more about that design thinking process and why you frame that with the why, who, what, how questions? I'd love to hear more about that. And I think our audience would too.
Yeah, well, think about the company called 3M. Now, 3M, you know what it stands for? Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. Now, do you think they do a lot of mining these days? I mean, 3M isn't known for mining and manufacturing. What are they known for, everybody? Post-its, yes. Right. So if you're going to really be a sustainable innovator, you've got to figure out why you exist and who you serve. And what exactly is the pain for which you are the painkiller? And that has something to do with what you provide and how you provide it, but it's the starting point. So I look for painkiller, if you really want to be able to connect to purpose and using, look, okay, I used to bake a lot. A recipe doesn't make cookies all by itself, but it's a good start and it's a guideline. And then you can depart from it thoughtfully. So there's plenty of recipes of how to start, lead, and grow your business successfully. You don't have to begin from scratch. Spend 3 minutes searching for it. I was working with one organization last week, and they were telling me about 2 or 3 things they thought were impossible. Within 1 minute searching, I found examples of them happening. So impossible, Dr. Clark Taylor, impossible means I don't personally know how to do it yet. And it reminds me of my famous physicist, Dr. Lord Kelvin, who in 1896 or something said, heavier than air flying machines are impossible. Now, there were birds when he said that, okay? Birds are heavier than air. But he couldn't imagine how to do it, so he said it was impossible. Therefore, he didn't do it. So design thinking is a way to make impossible merely difficult and then inevitable.
Oh, Kimberly, I don't know if you can say it again off the cuff, and I just want to make sure that everybody grabbed it, because I didn't get a chance to. When you added on to the why, the who, and the what, and then I think we spent a lot of time in the painkiller, which was really great, but I don't know if you could pull on that again to say exactly what you said before when you went through the process. You just had a really great sort of like 3-sentence boom, boom, boom. Did anybody grab that? Elise, Yvonne, Beth. I saw lots of note taking across our whole audience. And
sorry, Dr. Taylor. I'm summarizing in chat. Did I miss it, or is
I
what
went
I have in
scrolling
there?
up for it, and I don't think I saw it, and that was why I asked about it again.
Well, so I studied design thinking with the IDEO experts, and I found it too complex for my non-native English speaking clients. So I simplified it to big why, purpose beyond profit, big who, stakeholders that are impacted, can help you, can hurt you, and big what exactly is success through the eyes of your key stakeholders, and the measures of that success, like you're running a race, where's the finish line? And then big how. Okay, what will we do today, this week, this month, this quarter, this year to move lurching fitfully towards that impossible future, getting partial credit? And that's how I got through graduate school, people. Partial credit. I never got 100% on any exam.
Thank you so much for saying it again, because when you said it before, some of your illustrative stories, it just really spoke to me. It was something I wanted to remember myself. And so I thought there might be somebody else out there too who hadn't caught it. And Yvonne, you were doing such a beautiful job keeping track in the chat. And that was just one thing I wanted to see that I missed. I love that. 4 thumbs up. On that note, I don't know, you started to tell us an illustrative story or two, but I'm wondering if you feel like you have a perhaps an example that really would sort of drive home your point about why thinking about the big why, big who, big what, and measure of success with big how could really change the way that we do work.
Oh my gosh. Well, there's a lot of examples of people not doing it. Companies that go out of business. For example, you know who invented the digital camera? Kodak, yay. And Motorola had like 30% market share globally for cellular phones and analog phones. And they said, oh, we're not going to make a digital phone until it sounds as good as an analog phone. So Nokia, with no expertise in this area, took their business away because they said, hey, wait a second, why would people want a digital phone? more bandwidth. You can carry more signals on the same network. Well, who exactly is our customer? Hey, the networks, the AT&Ts of the world, not the end user. If it doesn't sound perfect, that's okay. And what exactly is success? Higher bandwidth. And so Nokia came and put in digital phones, pretty much knocked Motorola out of the market. And then Nokia comes with 53% market share globally. 53% market share globally. 7 years later, you know what it was? 3%, because they also forgot to ask, why are we in business, and who cares, and who are our stakeholders? And then Apple, what wasn't even in a phone company, comes out with the smartphones and BlackBerry. So people forget that what they're doing and how they're doing it, the world can change around you. So asking why, what's your purpose, and who do you serve, and who cares, and who are your stakeholders, and what exactly is success? You got to update the database once in a while. Otherwise, you lose track of why you exist, who you're serving, and what exactly is success.
Oh, thank you so much, Kimberly. I didn't get a chance to see on the side while we were talking where everybody is from, but and I know right now today I'm representing Lakewood, Ohio, but those examples also spoke to me on sort of a community and cultural level. You don't know this about me, but I grew up on Long Island, Nikon, and I spent most of my professional career up in upstate New York in Rochester, where Kodak is from. And so those examples for me particularly hit home really strongly of businesses ebbs and flows over the years. Now, as they figure out, right, how to stay abreast of the latest technology, right, and understand what's going on in the business world. And so that really brings me to the last question I had from the audience ahead of time that I wanted to ask you. And then maybe we'll open it up for questions from our folks here that didn't get to send something ahead of time. And I'm losing, specifically, I wanted to ask you a little bit about trends and sort of what's going on in the world right now, right? So we're in this global pandemic. The way we have done work and our workforce is changing around us at this very moment, right? How do you suggest we all remain active and relevant during this time?
Oh my gosh. Last February, I had just gotten back from Japan. I traveled to Japan or somewhere else globally every month for about 13 years, and sometimes traveling 50% or 90% time. Then in February, March, everything was canceled. Everything. So what did I do? First, I said, what? And then I asked this magical question. What does this seemingly negative thing, what does this make possible that wasn't possible before? And I created a group of consultants out of the community that I've been working with. I created a group called Possibility People, and we met every week since last March to say, what's possible now in this new reality? What seems impossible, but if it were possible, would transform our lives, our work, our communities, our world for the better. And what a journey it has been. So I think you keep asking, what's possible? What seems impossible? And what might make the impossible possible? And what does this seemingly negative thing make possible that would never have been possible before? And for me, it means totally virtualize all of our work. For example, we prototyped, we contacted our clients, and this might seem crazy, but we said, hey, we have nothing to do. We'd be happy to help you with workshops, activities, keynote speaking, strategy, planning sessions, team building, whatever you want, free. We called it pandemic pricing, free. So for all of April and May, we worked really hard for no money. And then June and July, a couple of big companies started saying, we have to pay you. And we're like, okay, sure, if you want to. But we just kept prototyping and experiment and failing forward and iterating with a commitment to the relationship. So I don't know, I mean, I really love it when I jump off the cliff and I realize, oh my gosh, I can't fly and I don't have wings. I better grow some wings on the way down.
I cannot agree enough. Well, I And I want to say, I think right in March started with a group of other women center directors and scholars that look at gender equity in higher education. And we've been meeting every Tuesday for an hour as much as we possibly can. And having that community of people to kind of innovate with and bounce things off of has been really exciting, even though it's been a really difficult, I think, time in the world. So, you know, I really feel like this has been speaking to a lot of the questions that we've been asked, right, by our audience today. But I want to ask you, right, is there anything that we haven't asked you that you thought you were going to be sharing today? Like, what do you want us to know?
Well, so I would love to do a little mini design thinking workshop therapy. But first, I thought maybe we put you all into breakout rooms, maybe 3 or 4 people in a breakout room for maybe 4 or 5 minutes. And you all talk about what's up in your life, you know, what's working, what's not working. What do you wish if you had a magic wand you could transform? Maybe we can, Yvonne, maybe we can put them in breakout rooms of 3 or 4 people for 5 or 6 minutes. And then you all can have a little chance to sync up in smaller groups. And we can come back and put some things in the chat together to pick the brains of these wonderful, brilliant people. Is that okay? Okay, so now if you get in a breakout, like sometimes people are on, but they've got an emergency in the background. So if you get into a breakout room by yourself, you can either meditate for a few minutes or you can come on back and we'll talk to you here in the main lobby. Yvonne, whenever.
Okay, just give me a second. Let me set it up.
Sure.
All right, so let's see here.
How
Okay.
many have used breakout rooms before? Yes, have you used breakout rooms before? Okay, so you know how magical they are. All right.
Cool. All right, so you said what, 5 minutes, 6 minutes?
How much time do you want, Angela Clark Taylor, doctor?
Oh man, I love that. I think about 6 minutes sounds good.
Okay, so 5 minutes with a 1 minute warning to come back.
Great.
And there'll be some people with 3 in a room or 4 in a room, but you'll be all happy and fine.
And just
take it away.
Whatever's up for you. What's working, not working? What would you change if you had a magic wand?
Okay, have fun.
Good.
So to debrief from what you just discussed in the breakout room, please use chat and share your thoughts, your comments. And Kimberly, do we want to do some round robin as well? So while people are putting in chat, we can have a few volunteers who wants to verbally share. All right. So who has, as Kimberly always asks, who has a burning desire to share? Wave your hand. Uh-oh, I'm not seeing any hands raised. Nobody's burning to share? Itching maybe? Okay, great. Rachel, so I'm going to pass you my little fuzz ball. Just find something on your desk to catch, okay?
Perfect.
There you go. What'd you catch? What did you catch?
It's actually like a little like foot massager thing, and I had it because it is the same to the koosh ball, kind of like that spiky, like tactile sensation.
Awesome.
So you know, in our small group, we discussed kind of in terms of things like if we had a magic wand, what we would make better or fix is a sense of kind of unity. So both in manufacturing plant as well as in higher education. There seems to be a lot of silos that are put up and a lot of kind of like red tape and maybe a feeling of disconnectedness between one group and another group within the company or business. So being able to more openly communicate, and we actually talked about using Zoom as a way to help folks feel a little bit more connected. So previously, be like 5 or 6 people in a boardroom, 2 people calling in, and those people who call in don't necessarily feel the same kind of connection. So now we have a space where, everybody's faces can be represented. So even if it's not person to person, camera to camera is kind of the next best thing. And we kind of hope to continue that moving forward.
Great. Thank you. And I just got a note that Susan M. also had a burning desire to share. So Rachel, do you mind throw in your massager to Susan?
Okay, and I'm going to catch my lipstick because I always have my lipstick at my desk. Thank you, Rachel. And just one edit. I would not say a burning desire. I did not have a burning desire. I think there was another modifier that you used. But I'll tell you, we just got started. What I found interesting was just the intersection of a couple of ideas. One related to our current remote working environment. I had indicated from, if I could wave my magic wand, with a little help from Mary, who got me on track. What I would really like to do is gain some insight with regard to how, insight with regard to how our teams are doing from a remote standpoint, and have an ability to enhance their experience, or be a better guide to enhancing their experience. And interestingly, Mary had said that if she could wave a magic wand, she would like to do a better job of managing people to stay engaged, or motivating people, I should say, to stay engaged. And I thought that although we didn't talk about it, it was curious to me, the intersection of those two thoughts.
Great.
Maybe one more comment, and then we'll read out some things from the chat, and then we'll give you a little overview of the design thinking methodology that we use. Look around, Susan, see if you can see anybody whose face looks like, yeah, I have a burning desire or whatever.
All right, let's see. How about Elise? Elise Corrigan?
Hi.
Elise?
Hi.
Oh,
Okay,
go ahead,
I
Elise.
caught
Oh, well.
a little avocado that I keep nearby. Thanks for calling on me. Gretchen shared a little bit in the chat about our conversation, so thanks to Gretchen for that. But we talked about having self-awareness as being something that's very important in our professional journeys, and I'm going to call out on Sheila, who is somewhere in this group, I think. But she was just mentioning that, she spends a lot of time in this kind of cycle where she's like directly doing things at work, and then moves to a place where she's managing people, and then realizes she wants to go back to directly doing the thing, and then, keeps going down this cycle. So she noticed that, and called attention to that as her kind of cycle is something that she wants to think about. So
And
good job, Sheila.
And then maybe Elisa Brossard, who was also close to being called on because of the close spelling of the names. Elisa?
I just caught chopstick.
Very practical.
I know, I feel on the spot. We had a great discussion on just being able to go with the flow, right? Like things are happening, the sooner you get to that place of acceptance, and just the sooner you can do something and really start to move from there.
Right on.
Who can I throw this to?
Well, let's have Yvonne see if she can read out a few of the beautiful insights in the chat, and then we'll do just an appetizer version of Design Thinking 101.
Okay, so we had
Yvonne,
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, so from LNC, we have became more intentional in cultivating meaningful relationships. From Sheila, never too old for a mentor. Emina, we discussed confidence, see the TED Talk by Girls Who Code. Let's see. Okay, that's what we have. Oh, one more. We all came from different places. Go ahead.
Cool.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to get your brain just hooked around this design thinking process. So I'm going to ask you to stand up and do a little brain opening exercise. And Yvonne, please tell me if my screen is showing.
I can see it, yes.
All right, so we're going to do a little creativity brain opening exercise because our brains are so practical. So we're gonna point at things and we're gonna call them something different. For example, if I pointed at cookies, I would say caterpillar. If I pointed at balloons, I would say pencil. I pointed at an ant, I would say perch chart. So go ahead and just for 30 seconds, walk around your room and point at things and call it what it's not. just give that a try.
And take yourselves off mute if you're in an environment where you can, so we can hear you.
Rubber ducky, wrench, ball,
Spatula. Knife.
Chair,
Book.
Kitchen.
TV,
Hammer.
radio,
oh,
picture frame,
Boiling water.
Plant.
vase,
God.
Screenshot.
fireplace,
Television.
Icebox. Tiger.
globe,
Allen ring.
And
door.
All right, great. Thanks everyone.
Oh.
Now come back, come back.
And just type 1 or 2 words in the chat. How was that? Was that easy? How did that feel? Did you really have to think about it? Oh yeah, liberating, difficult. What else, Yvonne?
Not easy. Yes, really difficult. It was nice to stand up and move. Oddly challenging. It was hard. Took some effort. Awkward. Funny. And another awkward.
Yeah. So let's just keep in mind that our brains fall into the ruts and habits so easily. So design thinking is one very powerful tool for helping us innovate on purpose, to break out of those boxes by design. So I'll just share a little bit with you all about what I've learned about this approach. First, I love to quote people who say silly things like this: a rocket will never be able to leave the Earth's atmosphere. Never. I mean, really, seriously, this is how brilliant people talk, because they can't imagine how they say it's impossible. But my favorite physicist said, if at first the idea is not absurd, there is no hope for it. But if you have a big idea, an impossible, crazy breakthrough, or a new product or service, or a new thing you'd like to do with your life, here's what you can expect. Are you seeing this picture of all of your relatives and friends killing your ideas? Yeah. So if you have a big dream and you tell your friends, your colleagues, your boss, your company, you know what they're going to say? Well, let me tell you all the reasons why that won't work. And these are not people who are out to kill your dreams. They're trying to spare you disappointment. But I'm telling you that you have to be willing to risk disappointment and at least temporary failure in order to achieve great breakthroughs. So don't talk to these people. Talk to someone like me who says, sure, why not? Interesting, tell me more. Hey, that doesn't mean I'm going to help you do it, but I'm not going to kill your idea because, well, let me just ask you a question. Put in the chat, what % of everything in the entire universe do you personally know? Just give a rough estimate. Don't be humble. Just what % of everything, out of 100% of everything in the entire universe, do you personally know? Yeah, maybe 1%. Oh, the smartest people I ever met. 0.0000001%, Jackie. Thank you so much. Exactly, people. So this is where we have to understand. When someone tells you something's impossible, it means they can't immediately imagine how to do it. Notice the jump to how. How to do it is the last step of the planning process, not the first. Big why, big who, big what, measures of success, and then how. But really smart people jump to how. They can't imagine how to do it, and so they say it's impossible. And when these people tell you that, just remember, they know at most 1%, and something in the 99% that they don't know could make what you're thinking of possible or even easy. I do collect quotes about things that are impossible, like, like the Kodak guys, when they showed the prototype of the digital camera to their executives, the executive said, cute, but don't show it to anybody, because they thought it's impossible for this big, ugly, huge, expensive, poor quality thing to ever be useful. All right, so let's just do a little bit more on this, because now that I know this approach, I work on impossible specialty. And here's the difference between problem solving and design thinking. Problem solving is asking a question and getting an answer. Whereas design thinking is asking a question, exploring possibilities that leads to solutions that would have not been thought of from an incremental standpoint. For example, Henry Ford said, if I talked to my current customers, potential customers, I would be designing a faster horse. Okay. So when you ask people, how do you want to travel faster? They say, get a faster horse. They don't think of a car. And so what you end up is getting this wall of objections of why what you're proposing is not possible. But there's something called lateral thinking, which starts in the future and said, hey, let's imagine the future first. Why would we want to do it? Who would be the stakeholders? Who cares? Who can help us? Who benefits? Who's impacted? And what exactly would that future look like, feel like, smell like, taste like, and sound like? And then work backwards from there. And you see that little tiny opening here? You would never even see that if you're just doing traditional problem solving, because you would just pass that right by. And I'll give you an example of this. Lateral thinking. Analytical thinking, go through this maze. Lateral thinking, go around the edge of it. So this is what we want to do with design thinking. Start in the future, imagine why, who, and what, and then work backwards to the present, do a gap analysis. It's just like, what you find out is there's many, many paths that can connect the future with the present. So the first thing I want to ask you to do is to imagine it's 5 or 10 years from now in your life. So you've got your little worksheet. What exactly would you like to be saying at a party celebrating your success? What would you like to be saying? Who would you like to have at this party? And why would they all be gathered? What would have been the purpose of your life for the last 5 years? You know, when I ask people, what is the purpose of your company? Oh, to make profit? Seriously? Really? Is that the purpose of your company? Never. Your purpose of your company or your startup or your entrepreneurial venture is to provide something that's meaningful, that's the painkiller for someone's pain, for some stakeholder to fulfill a purpose. And because you fulfill that purpose for that stakeholder in that way, that is resulting in profit. Profit is a lagging indicator of success. So it is never your big why purpose. It is never your big who or big what goal and stakeholder. So I just want y'all to spend some time doing that. So why don't we go to the breakout rooms with maybe 4 people, just in case a few people don't show up, and just have a one headline from the future. If you are wildly successful and happy 5 years from now, what would be a headline that would be published about you, your life, your work? Just take some time in a breakout room to share a headline or 2, all right? About the future. Start in the future and work backwards from there. Okay. I hope that you see just in a couple of minutes how sharing with a couple of thinking partners can make your ideas seem less crazy and more possible. So maybe just a show of hands or in the chat, when you are listening to the other people talk about their headlines of the future, did you think, yeah, that could happen? Please give me the thumbs up if you said, yeah, I mean, it seemed feasible. Okay, and how about when you were listening to them, did you even think, I have some ideas how to help them even? I could even lend a hand. Anyone? Yeah. So this is so interesting. We have this big dream for ourselves, right? For the future, but in our head, maybe it sounds a little bit unrealistic or maybe even impossible, but in just 4 minutes, telling other people they start thinking of ways they can help us. Oh my God. Now, this is one of the secrets of creating impossible futures, is to share with your thinking partners, hey, here's a big idea I have. I have no idea how to achieve it, but just let me talk about it. Anything else showing up in the chat? Let's see.
Nope, not so far. But please, if you have any
Right.
comments, please share.
Let me just show you why using a process is so critical. Do you see this NASA's creativity quiz? All right, so NASA studied 1,600 kids at age 5, then again at age 10, again at age 15, and adults. And they measured their creativity by some mechanism. And here's the results they got. Guess which one is the adults? Do you see the bar graph? So one of the groups has 98% creativity and one of them has 30%, one 12%, one 2%. Which ones are the adults, people? Shout it out.
Right.
2%.
Yeah, the 2%. All right. Now look what happened. Box is a spaceship. To 10 years old, 30%. This box is a box. Okay. What happens between the age of 5 and 10? Sorry to our professors here, but they go to school, okay, and they learn what's practical and what's possible. All right. So now, so let's see a different way to help each other. I want you to do a little exercise where you try on purpose to kill people's ideas. Okay. So we're going to be planning a party in the next breakout room, which is just going to be 2 minutes and 1 minute to come back. You're going to be planning a big party 5 years from now, celebrating your big breakthrough. Now I want you to say an idea, and then the next person will say yes, but, and tell why that idea is not really feasible, and then give your idea. Then the next person will kill that idea, saying yes, but, and tell why that's not a good idea and give their idea. Just spend 2 minutes killing each other's ideas. It's really fun, and it'll give you good practice for the real world where this happens all the time by people who I call often wrong but never in doubt, are dying to kill your ideas. All right, let's have a yes but party planning. It's the year 2026 and we're here together and we're all planning a party and you're gonna kill the ideas. Yes, let's do it. 2 minutes.
All right.
So let's just see with a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Did you make a lot of progress planning this party? Not so much. Oh yeah. And this is, unfortunately, smart people use this technique. And if you're negative, people will think you're smarter. I mean, possibility thinking is great, except if you're negative, if you criticize, condemn, or find the flaws in other people's thinking, people will think you're smarter. And I call some of these people the cave people, citizens against virtually everything, because they can always find things to criticize. It kind of may be like a little bit like a thesis defense committee. Sorry, no, maybe not. Okay. Okay, so now let's try the opposite. Instead of yes, but, we're going to use yes and thinking, which is the core of design thinking. We're going to plan a party. And I say we're all going to meet on the International Space Station for the party. And Yvonne,
And wow, how long should we have this party last for? Can't hear you. I can't hear you.
so pass to the next person, Yvonne. Yes,
Okay,
and.
sorry. Okay, sorry about
yes,
that.
and another idea.
Let's see who wants to
Another
share. Who wants to
idea.
share?
Yes.
I think we should have pink astronaut suits.
Oh, great. All right, everybody jump in.
Yes, and woohoo.
Unmute yourselves and add your ideas.
For some reason, pink got me thinking about cotton candy, so we should have and cotton candy.
Wonderful.
Yes,
And
and
the astronaut ice cream.
Okay, yes, and next.
Yeah, yes, and we should have dancing.
Definitely. Yes, and who's next?
And lots of music.
Wonderful.
Space music.
Wonderful.
And champagne.
Oh, yes, and champagne
and untethered spacewalks.
wonderful. Oh, yes, and while we're spacewalking, what else? Oh, let's put a flag on the moon to represent women. Excellent. Yes, and
Yay! All right. One more.
anyone?
Free party on the spaceship.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So you see the difference? Now, all of these ideas might be unrealistic or so-called impossible, and they may lead us into some ideas that would be quite feasible and quite achievable. So this is called generously listening to other people. And it doesn't just go with yes and. This is called generously listening, and this is critical to expanding the possibilities. Design thinking works best with a diverse team with differently gifted people. And I call this thinking partners based on a book by Nancy Klein. Everything we do depends on the thinking we do first, but the quality of our thinking is raised if people listen to us generously. And here's the simple version of generous listening. Someone says an idea, it's absolutely crazy. You think it's impossible or unrealistic at best. You look at them, smile, and you say, interesting, tell me more. Let's all say that together, the 4 magic words. Interesting. Tell me more. Now you can always go on to say, that's a great idea, say more, don't ask how. That's for later, after why, who, and what. Don't ask why, because it tends to make people defensive, and just keep them talking about their idea. And what happens is, well, many things seem impossible until your competitor does it, okay? And if you use this kind of generous listening in the design thinking framework, you are going to double your chances of success. I'm just going to give you a little brief overview. When you want to work on something that's difficult, challenging, or seems highly unlikely or almost impossible, first thing, stop. Stop, think, organize, plan. We use our big recipe for results. Big why. What's the purpose? What's the reason it matters? Big who. Who are the stakeholders? Who cares? Who can help us? Who can hurt us? Big what? What exactly is success? What does it smell like, look like, taste like, feel like through the eyes of the stakeholders? We can do a little bit of why not thinking. I love going to the dark side and risk thinking. And then how? Not like it's a waterfall. It's why, who, what, how, prototype, experiment, take necessary risks, learn from mistakes, and fail forward, expanding ideas, and then choosing. Expanding ideas first, and then choosing. If we collapse idea generation and idea selection together, you will kill every idea with yes, but thinking. Now I'll give you a little test, okay? Do you see this pumpkin? Do you see it?
Kimberly, I think your screen is frozen.
Okay, so imagine we have a pumpkin. One pumpkin, only one pumpkin. I want it, and Dr. Angela Clark Taylor wants it. We both want this pumpkin. What should we do? Any ideas?
And write it in chat or shout it out.
Thank
So
you.
I have an idea, but I've gone through this exercise with an orange.
Oh, okay.
With a mom with 2 kids. So I'll be quiet.
We have in chat, we have cut it in half, share it, toss a coin.
Oh, really? Because one person wanted to make a jack-o'-lantern and the other person wanted to make pumpkin seeds.
Excellent.
Okay? So if you really, really wanted to solve that problem, first ask why. What's the reason we want that orange or that pumpkin? Now the next challenge is this. We're going to put these car parts in priority order, all right? So we got parts of a car. All I want you to do is tell me which one is number 1. Number two, number
right.
3.
Not seeing it yet.
Okay. Think of the parts of a car. Which parts are the most important?
Again, shout it out or put it
Go
in
ahead, write it
chat.
in the chat.
Steering wheel,
Oh, thank you.
wheels, engine,
Real.
brakes, wheels, more brakes.
Okay. Now, did you ever think, yeah. What question should you be asking? Why do you want that car, Kimberly? Well, who wants it? Well, I live in a really expensive part of the US, so I'd like a really cheap place to live. I'm just going to tow it to my friend's house and live in their backyard in my car. Now, what are the most important parts of the car? Once we know why and who.
Okay. Anybody?
Yeah, important to whom?
Spacious. Yep. Shell of the car, body. Yes.
Right on.
Size.
Right on.
Yep.
So now, so knowing why and who changes the success criteria. So this is another challenge. Now, other thing I want you to notice is how important it is to get a clear and vivid image of the future. So get a piece of paper and a pencil. And I just want you to real quick draw a tree. Draw a tree. What? What the big what? A tree. Draw a tree. All right. Don't make it beautiful. Just a nice prototype will be fine. 10 more seconds to draw your tree. I know Emmeline is really working on it hard. Thank you, Emmeline. And Carlier, thank you for putting your heart and soul into that tree. Let's hold up a picture of your tree. Hold it up to the camera there, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my gosh. Did you all draw the same tree? No. See, this is what I wanted you to draw. I wanted you to draw this tree. But the problem is when we say, hey, let's create this together, this shared goal, everyone closes their eyes and imagines a different tree, imagines a different future. So what this needs to be is it's 3 meters high. It's 1 meter wide at the base. The trunk is 15 centimeters in diameter. There's 5,726 needles that are each 4 centimeters long. I'm using the metric system because I'm a physicist, right? And they're dark, dark green. So now if we all drew that tree, we would get the same result. And that is the essence of design thinking's big why, big who, and big what. Big why, the pumpkin. Hey, why do we want that pumpkin? To make seeds or to make a jack-o'-lantern? Maybe there's a way to solve both challenges together. And who exactly wants that car? Me, to have a cheap place to live? Hey, then the driver's seat is more important than the engine, maybe the passenger seat in the back. And then what exactly kind of tree? What are the measures of that tree? And when we have the big why, the big who, and the big what really clear for you, your team, your project, your life, here's a little hint. The how becomes obvious. Obvious. So when we do this exercise for your real team, your real project, your real life, the how becomes obvious. Don't believe me. Don't believe anything I say just because I'm enthusiastic, because I'm always enthusiastic. I'm going to share these presentation slides and I'm going to offer anybody who would like to follow up with me, by all means, please do it. I'm going to pass it back to Elise, and I'll be hanging around for the after party for anybody who would like to go deeper. Thank you so much. Thank you, Yvonne, for the support, as always.
Well, thank you so much,
I can
Kimberly
hear those
Wiefling.
muted claps.
Yes, absolutely. Claps from everyone. Thank you for the presentation, first, sharing a little bit about your thoughts with our questions, and then also going through, this appetizer view of design thinking. I definitely learned a lot and I appreciate all of this. For the folks who are interested, we are going to keep the Zoom room open and allowing everyone to just chat and mingle, quote unquote, mingle on here. So if you want to ask specific questions, just go ahead and stay on. If you need to go, feel free to do so. And I'm going to turn it over, Angela, if you want to share anything. I'll let you. I don't know.
Thank you so much, Elise. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to you and Beth and Holly, who I thought I saw on here for help with the planning, and Yvonne, and most of all, Kimberly, thank you so much for doing this, really for sharing your expertise with us. And I just think it speaks a lot to what we're trying to do at the center to help women be innovators. And I just can't thank you enough.